Welcome to the Health Design Leadership Podcast with author, speaker, and leadership coach Carol Phillips. We're here to help you sharpen your leadership skills and discover the best ways to build great teams. So sit back and enjoy this episode of the Health Design Leadership Podcast with your host, Coach Carol.
Hello, leaders. I'm Carol Phillips, and we're here to help you sharpen your leadership skills and create winning teams that thrive. Today's episode is going to give you a new perspective on how focusing on your own personal growth can quickly result in realizing your career dreams and benefit your organization and your team in the process. Our guest today is well-versed in this area. Renee Smith is a nationally recognized executive development expert and a leader's career accelerator. Renee helps senior leaders become more likable, marketable, and credible, increasing their income and influence. Working with individuals and businesses in industries such as tech, legal, healthcare, and financial, some of her clients boast income increases of up to 113% and businesses up to 900%. While working at Amazon, her manager called her, quote, thought-provoking, results-driven, and business savvy. These are just a few of the many incredible qualities you get when working with Renee. Whether in hallway conversations, strategy sessions, or during work reviews, Renee can always be relied upon to challenge your thinking and bring an owner's mindset to the discussion, end quote. While partnering with seasoned executives at Amazon, her clients sang her praises and lauded her ability to coach and develop in ways that produce tangible results. No small feat when working with leaders running massive global organizations. Now, let's learn more about Renee and how she helps leaders go from good to great. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carol. Really good to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. I can't wait to hear what you'll be sharing with us. And just so our listeners know, I did some coaching sessions with Renee, probably almost a decade ago now, but I wasn't her coach. She was my coach, and she is fabulous. So I'm excited to have this conversation with her. Renee, before we start talking about leadership, I want to ask if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your life experiences that forced you to grow into the successful person you are today. And the reason I want to start with that today is because I was also really shy and insecure and bullied when I was in fourth, fifth, sixth grade. And, you know, when we go through life, we try, we fail, we deal with all kinds of different challenges. And sometimes people don't see everything we went through to get to where we are today. And our listeners can read more about your story on your website, but can you give us a quick glimpse into a couple memorable moments in your journey?
Very good question. So I like to say that I was bullied on the playground and in the workplace. And so if you can imagine a young lady, a young girl, being bullied from the time she entered into school until about the fifth grade, sixth grade, and ultimately reading a book called See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar, that was my pivotal moment. So at 12 years old, I'm seeking answers. I'm wondering, how can I get out of this tight space? And as a result of really beginning to think positive, shifting my attitude about how I see myself and also how I see the experience, in 2 years, I was voted best personality, most popular, and queen of the school, right? So now I'm feeling good about myself and what I'm capable of doing, and I enter into the workplace. And it's not fair game, right? My supervisor didn't treat me well when I was at my first job. And by the time that I had gotten into a role as a director, my supervisor would humiliate me in front of my staff, call me outside my name. It was just a horrible experience that led to a doctor diagnosing me as being depressed.
Wow.
And he gave me some antidepressants. I took them home, looked at them, and this is my journey. I'm not encouraging anyone else to do what I did, but I threw them in the trash. And while I had some very tough days of not getting out of bed, because I ended up getting fired from a job where I was bullied. Imagine that.
Terrible.
And I ended up just making my way back to myself, and it was there that There Is More Inside was born, which was how I launched my own business. I decided that I didn't want anyone else to face the challenge that I faced, and that I was going to teach them how to be courageous and confident and take ownership of their lives. But there were a lot of pivotal moments of self-reflection and growth on my part to get to the point that I could say that confidence is trusting your opinion of yourself more than you trust other people's opinion about you, and owning that.
Wow, that is fabulous. First, I'm sorry you went through that. And we need to speak out against bullying. This isn't something where it's, well, people need to deal with that. It helps them grow. No, we need to speak out about it because it's very, very damaging. But boy, oh boy, are you resilient, because that's a long time to put up with a lot of bullying. And right, like you were saying, it happens in the workplace too. And that needs to be called out. And the people who are being bullied shouldn't be the people losing their jobs.
Exactly. But here's what I want everyone to know is that about 11 years later, I received an email from the person who was bullying me, apologizing and acknowledging that it was all her.
Wow.
So you can, if you're in that space and you're thinking, wow, this is me and I caused this, etc. When people come to themselves and become self-aware of who they've been, but yet who they are, right? They recognize this is who I've been, but this is who I really am, and connect with that. They're able to own their past, apologize for it, and then walk into a better future for themselves.
Yes, I love that. It's so true. And that when you do take ownership, that is so powerful. And that really shows that somebody is more emotionally mature.
Absolutely. And that comes with growth. It comes from what they're doing right now, listening to the podcast and learning, how do I expand my thinking and the vision that I have for my life, and how do I, develop the skills, the talents, and abilities to walk in it. And it starts with self-reflection.
Yes, so important. And that creates much better leaders, which, let's talk leadership. You've been working with business leaders for many years now, and you talk about executive presence. Please tell us what that is and how it helps business leaders.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm going to start with the model that I developed several years ago when I was asked to speak and develop a program for SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, for their senior leadership program. And I created a 3-day process called Powerful Leaders: Transform Your Personal Brand and Executive Presence. And when I began to think about executive presence and what it is and how people show up in it and what it looked like, I began to think about people I know or have met along, during my life, such as Oprah Winfrey and General Welch and Iman. And I noticed how people showed up in different ways. And I recognized that it's really an output. Right? So executive presence in and of itself is simply how someone shows up. Mm-hmm. But what are the inputs that are needed for a person to exhibit executive presence is really where I'd like to take the conversation if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it really starts with the mindset, right? How do I see myself? How do I see others? And how do I see the world around me? Which really moves into attitude. Right. And
Right.
attitude is simply your likes and dislikes. What do I like about this person? What do I dislike? And how do those likes and dislikes shape how I show up and how I engage with other people? Because that's going to determine the persona. That's going to determine the energy in which I operate in. And then you also have your personality, your self-esteem, the values, your beliefs, your appearance. All of that, right, is what leads into self-actualization, which is self-awareness. It's situational awareness. And from there, you become more courageous, more confident, and you're able to exhibit your competence in a confident and courageous way that looks like executive presence.
Right, right. And then once you reach that awareness, it's so much easier to be kinder to other people, especially everyone on your team, and be more focused on how you can serve them and make their lives easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, and that leads to executive presence. And let's be clear and dive a little bit deeper into that, because you make a good point in terms of how you treat people, right? So that situational awareness leads into that, helps you lean into that, but also it leans into listening, how you listen, not just what you're hearing, but how you're listening and what are you feeling as a result of what you're hearing, because that's what leads into empathy. That's what leads into great leadership, because not only am I hearing what you're saying, I'm feeling what you're saying. And as I feel what you're saying, I'm able to put into context what you're going through and therefore better able to serve you.
Yes. And, it's all kind of connected. And one of the topics you prioritize in your work is the art of listening, the importance of learning to be a good listener. And I love this topic because it's so important and it is a skill that we can work on. So share with us how you get business leaders to focus on the great skill of listening.
Yeah. So typically when they come to me, they have a problem. So, and that problem is somehow connected to people and how they're leading. And so it's not a whole lot. It's what do you think is happening? Excuse me, as a result of this disconnect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to have being able to role play with them and learning how they're hearing or not hearing, right? Really what's happening, right? So you're not hearing it because you're not listening. And so I get them to actually see it literally by role playing and creating scenarios that they have experienced, what they could experience in order which it ultimately impacts their team, impacts the lives of their team, impacts the business productivity, which ultimately leads back to them and impacts how they are seen and heard by their management. So It's all about the value prop. It's all about, because everybody responds to value proposition. What's in it for me? And if you cannot, as a leader or as a coach or as a talent development person, really connect the value that you get from developing a skill, you won't develop it.
For sure, 100%. And when people think, well, I'm the boss, I tell people what to do, and then they do it. well, that doesn't leave employees feeling that they're heard regarding anything. And so learning that it's a two-way communication. And I love this saying, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. We should be listening twice as much as we're talking.
Yeah.
And practicing listening actively. So sometimes we need to recognize if we're just listening or talking and then waiting for our turn to talk. So we're not really listening. And I heard a great tip one time, and that was develop a habit of trying to listen 70% of the time when you're having a conversation with somebody, because that's going to force you to stop talking so much and give the other person a chance to say what they're trying to communicate.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you one that I heard Oprah Winfrey say. As we know, a television talk show host that, is now a billionaire as a result of listening. She said, the person who is listening is in the seat of power.
I love that.
You're the person who's gathering the data. So the data is where the power is. That's where you know what to say, what not to say, how to respond, how to connect, how to engage, how to influence is through listening. And so when you recognize, because we've been taught how to speak, how to ensure our voice is heard, our voice can still be heard, as Oprah has demonstrated, by listening.
Yes. That's terrific. I love that. So much to think about regarding that, and communication, such a huge topic. One of your specialties, Renee, is personal branding. And when people first hear that term, they might think of maybe the person who wants to start their own business, or maybe a CEO of a large corporation. Can you explain from your experience and your perspective what personal branding is and why it's important in your work?
Yeah. So personal branding is the process by which you identify who you are, why you're here, what you're here to do, and the results that you create by doing the work that you do. That's what personal branding is. A personal brand is you showing up in the power of who you are with a clear mission, message, and value for the work that you do and the impact that you have on others. Why is this so important? Because when you show up in the room, people are looking for the value that you're going to bring to the conversation, to the experience, to the project, to the customer. They're looking for value. Now, they may not articulate it that way, but that's really what people are looking for. What does Carol bring to this conversation that's going to be of value, right? And so when you are clear on why you're there and the value that you bring, you're able to articulate that. And that's what elevates your visibility, your credibility, and the desire for people to engage with you over and over and over again.
I love that. That's so important. And for business leaders to apply that to their team at the same time, right? What value can I bring to you? What do you need today?
Absolutely. And here's the thing that leaders have to get is that every person wants to wake up and know what they're going to get when they engage with their leader. They don't want one type of leader today and another type of leader tomorrow. I want to know that when I engage with you, I'm going to get somebody who's a great listener, who understands me and gets me as their follower, and that they have enough empathy and understanding on how to inspire me to continue to engage. I'm already motivated. If I show up to work, I'm motivated. Now, you as a leader, you have a responsibility to inspire greater action. And that inspiration comes through conversation and knowing me. It's just like a marriage, right? You know, I'm here because I married you, you being a spouse, but I stay because you inspire me. And you inspire me because you see me, you hear me, and you remind me every day that I matter, that I'm important to the world, because you are the first person that I see in the morning and the last person that I see at night. And if you think about when you show up to work, who I see or who I want to see or who I desire to see and impress is my manager, my leader. And so when that leader shows up and values me as much as I value them, that's when there's a good relationship that is created. I teach people all the time, and I wrote this in I think my latest book, Harness the Power. We often have talked about, a first impression is a lasting impression. No, not so. Not so at all. The first impression is the beginning of a relationship. The quality of that relationship is based on what you do on a day-to-day basis and how you treat me.
Yes, yes. And you just gave me a light bulb moment, because we're always talking about what leaders need to do to engage their employees. But if they're hiring right, the employees are already motivated and engaged, and leaders need to focus on not doing the things that are going to rob them from being inspired, right? That's going to make them not want to continue to give because they don't feel it's a healthy two-way relationship.
Exactly.
Wow, that's great. Oh, wow, that's got me really thinking now. Because that puts a whole new spin on employee engagement, right?
Absolutely.
So what do the leaders need to be doing on an ongoing basis to keep it reminds me of, when you take a course in school and the teacher starts off by saying, everybody starts with an A, and you're going to decide if at the end of the course you leave here with something less than an A.
Exactly.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, Renee, I love success stories. And in my online leadership coaching program, we collaborate and share success stories every month so we can work together and continue to learn from each other. And I know you've helped countless leaders growing over the years. Can you share with us one or two of your inspiring stories with your clients?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a person who wasn't a leader. In fact, she worked at a job for 6 years and she kept trying to advance within the organization. And she was overlooked and she could never get to that next level. So when I met her, she was in a place of wondering whether or not she really had what it takes to be a leader. And so she attended a workshop that I had, and eventually she decided, we worked on some things, specifically communication, how to communicate our message, really branding. All of it was about branding and how to craft her story in such a way that people would be intrigued and want to engage with her. We talked about effective communication. How can she use her voice, her body, in order to convey a message that would make people want to listen? And so, in working with that, in 4 months, she had interviews. She landed two jobs. Two job offers, actually, and she chose a position as an assistant director. Now, she went in as a program assistant and she got an assistant director job. In 15 months from that point, she became the director. And from the time that she met me, she had 113% pay increase, and she received the Civilian Employee of the Year.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So, and her key takeaways. Now, this person was an introvert, and if you know anything about introverts, they're very quiet and can be easily overlooked, but they are explosive when they speak because they're collecting all this data. Remember, listening is in the power seat. So they
Yes.
collected all this data, they synthesized it, they made sense of it, and now they're speaking, and everybody's sitting there saying, well, why didn't you speak sooner? Right? So she really learned how to own being an introvert, but how to leverage it when she was in the room. She was learning how to become, as I mentioned, an effective communicator, and then giving herself what she needed at the time to refuel and replenish so that she could bring the best value to the room, as well as to her employees, because now she's a director and people are pulling on her. At what point does she close the door, recalibrate, and then come back out refreshed and ready to give of herself? So those were her big takeaways. That's one. She's an amazing story, and she's gotten another promotion since then. So she keeps accelerating in her career. And then there was another individual who started out. She was an HR manager, and she attended the 3-day workshop I was telling you about on personal branding and executive presence. And in 4 months, it must be something special about 4 months. I'm not sure. I just realized that she also got promoted in 4 months. She went from manager to director. And then a year and 7 months after that, she became a senior director. And in 2 years and 6 months, she became a vice president of HR.
Terrific.
And it's amazing. She said, this process had such a great impact on her that she had her dream job, and then she was promoted to a role that she never dreamed of having.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So you know how to give them the tools so that they can find their own talents and how to communicate them best.
Absolutely. And, she said that her key takeaways were self-awareness, like really managing self and putting into context what other people were doing or how they were being and how they were treating her, which was really causing harm to her. But then learning, this is mine and this is hers and this is how I'm going to manage it. And then having the confidence to continue to work on her why. Why am I here? Why am I in this space? And separating, okay, I'm going to focus on my target. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do. All the other stuff is nothing but distractors and noise. And I need to shut that out and focus on my target. And then the piece around self-reflection on a day-to-day basis is realizing that it's important, crucial, paramount. You have to do this every day to take the time, reflect on where you are, where you want to go, close that gaps, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Yes, yes. And I was just talking about this morning when I was doing a presentation, is sometimes we talk to people who are not our cheerleaders, and they are people who, they question why we want to try to, step outside our comfort zone. They're the naysayers that make us go back inside our shell. Whereas if we focus on people like you and other people in our lives who are positive and who believe in us, just knowing that somebody believes in us can really help us to come out and do what we're meant to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we give too much attention to the people who are against us versus the people who are for us.
Right. Right. And parsing out who are the cheerleaders in my life versus who are the saboteurs.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes the line isn't so clear.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that. But a part of that is because we aren't being self-aware. When you get in a place of self-awareness, not only are you aware of what you see, you're aware of what you're feeling. And there is an energy with every engagement. And you may not understand why you're feeling that way about that person or why that person's energy doesn't align with you, but trust it. Trust your gut, trust your intuition, trust what is being communicated to you. Does it mean to be mean to anybody? Does it mean to block anybody off? I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about being aware. And when the energy feels good, when you feel safe with the person, also trust that. And then have a select few people and know that these select few people are the people who I can really truly share where I'm at, where I really want to go, and solicit for their help to get there. I always share this with people though, and it's just my particular methodology. I engage, my whole concept is always talk to people who have as much to lose as you do. And if they don't, make sure that you are very careful, because the people who don't have as much to lose as you do or don't see that they have as much to lose, they may be the people who will be more destructive. And I'm not labeling anyone. I'm talking about energy. I'm talking about how destructive people are with their own lives.
Yes, for sure. And when you become more self-aware and you learn to listen to your instinct, it is much, much easier to see who the cheerleaders are in your life that will help you grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. Okay, Renee, it's time for Coach Carol's quick quiz.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. This should be fun.
I'm going to throw some questions at you just for fun, and so our listeners can learn more about you. There's 5 questions, and just give me the first thing that comes to mind. You can answer however you want. Okay?
Yeah. All right.
All right. Question number 1. If you could only listen to one musical artist for the next year, who would it be?
One musical. Okay, so, that's a hard one. So let me, if I can adjust that.
You can do whatever you want.
Okay. So there's one song that I really like to listen to, and it's The Champion by Carrie Underwood featuring Ludacris. And I like to listen to that because it's really about you fighting through and making it to the top no matter what.
Oh, I love that. You know what? The one for me is The Climb by Miley Cyrus.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So Yes, we both have our inspirational song. That's terrific. All right, question number 2.
Mhm.
What was your favorite outdoor activity to do when you were a kid?
2 comes to mind. I like to play football with my brothers and neighbors, but I also like kickball. I think kickball was better. It just didn't feel as dangerous. And it was easier. I was better at it. The ball isn't as hard, like run the bases.
Right.
Yeah, kickball for sure.
I love it. All right, number 3. When working with a group of business leaders, what's your favorite topic to dive into?
Whoa.
I know that's hard.
Carol, you don't make it easy, do you? I like, ooh, gosh, I like all of it. The first thing that's come to mind is communication, because I think everything around communication leads to all of those other points, whether it's branding, executive presence, etc. Communication from the fullness of what it is, the listening as well as the speaking and the experience thereof.
Yes. And so much communication goes on constantly that a lot of times we're not even aware of. So yeah, definitely a great topic.
Yeah,
Right.
even in written form. So,
Yes.
that's important too. That, sometimes we forget how we write also leads people feeling a particular way. So looking at communication and in the fullness of what it is and how we engage with one another is fascinating to me.
Yes. And when writing those difficult emails, maybe take a break and sleep on it and read it in the morning before you hit send.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Question 4. You were scheduled to do a full day of training with one of your clients and they need to reschedule at the last minute. What are you doing with your unexpected day off?
Doing what I needed to do, but didn't have the chance to do because I was working. So what that means is my schedule is always full. And I always have something that I can resort to, whether it's social media, whether it's crafting a new program, etc. I am going to do something relevant that is productive and engages my audience.
Nice. Isn't it wonderful sometimes to just have some unexpected time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very much so.
Okay, last question. What's your favorite advice for young adults who are struggling to follow their business dreams?
To identify the struggle. Know what it is that's going on inside of you that's blocking you. Because the only way that you're going to get there is to identify what the barrier is, smash through it, and then get to the other side. I'll share with you this one piece. Is it time?
Yeah.
Okay. All
You
right.
go for it.
Okay. So when I was struggling, I, even with my first book, it took me years to write it because I was struggling whether anybody would read it, whether they wouldn't, and then to launch my business and put myself out there. It was a challenge to smash through those internal barriers and get there. In fact, what I say is this: when my purpose and why it was my purpose connected, it was electrifying. My eyes were open and I knew the worth of my experiences and pain, what I had, why I had it, and what I had to offer because of it. At that moment, everything began to change.
Wow. And don't you love those epiphanies?
Yes.
Because then you never go back, because your eyes are open now and you feel the joy of that step forward.
Yes. And you've developed a tool. You've identified a way to move beyond it. So, and that's a tool that you now use. So even when you come to another barrier, you're able to recognize it more quickly. You're able to identify the trigger, because we all have them, and what caused that trigger to come back up. And then you're able to identify it, deal with it, overcome it. And so whereas it took me 7 to 10 years to get the first book done, the last book took a matter of months, because I no longer have to no longer have to go through those steps. I have the tools to say, all is well.
Yes.
All is well.
Yes. And I like telling my clients, I'm going to give you a new toolkit with new tools, and then you're going to be able to just, at different times when you need them, you know the tools that you're going to be able to grab and use them to move forward.
Exactly.
Wow. Oh, Renee, thank you so much for being such a good sport with our little game there. Before we wrap up today, you've written and co-written several books. Can you share one message from one of your books that may help someone who may be eager to move forward, but's feeling a little or a lot stuck right now?
Yeah. So typically when we're stuck, we are battling what we believe is true versus what is showing up in our lives. And so we have to be able to figure out what is trying to emerge within me and through me. And so I want to focus on the decision point. And that would be a quote from my first book, There Is More Inside, where I say, I had to accept responsibility for abandoning my values. I separated myself from the true source of love. I was innocent, but I wasn't naive.
Wow, that's profound. That really makes you think.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, people definitely should check out your books, because you have so much great advice and just clarifying things that you put it in a way that just makes it so much easier, I think, for people to grasp and self-reflect and then grow from there. Oh, thank you. Renee, please tell our listeners how they can learn more about you, how to reach you, and where they can buy your books.
Absolutely. So Renee, SRENEE at srenee.com. If you go to my website, srenee.com, certainly there's a link to email me. Also, my number is there, 888-588-0423. And of course, LinkedIn has become a very popular place for people to reach out. I'm at Renee. And my name is Renee Smith. And if you at any moment say, oh, Renee, I don't get it, Google Renee, and immediately it all comes up. And my books, of course, can be found on Amazon. All of them are available there.
Thank you. Oh, Renee, Renee, thank you so much for being with us today. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you for all the great work that you do, helping people grow and succeed. Your clients are just so blessed to have you.
Thank you. And I'm blessed to have them. And I'm very grateful that we connected and we've had the opportunity to share this time together with you and your listeners.
Thank you so much. Listeners, be sure to check out Renee's inspiring story and all of her great work at srenee.com, and check out all of her books on Amazon. Thank you all, business leaders, for listening today, who are making their companies the best places to work. Be on the lookout for our next podcast, and make today a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Health Design Leadership Podcast with Carol Phillips. Be sure to click on the subscribe button so you won't miss any new episodes. Join our online leadership dream team at askcoachcarol.com. If you're looking for an engaging speaker for your next event or an effective trainer to strengthen your leadership team, contact Coach Carol today. Thanks again for listening, and make it a great day.